Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Vegan Spirituality online gathering. This is our effort to reach out to vegans across the country to have an opportunity to really explore and discuss what it means to be vegan and how to explore and exploring together as a group to being vegan as a spiritual practice. And so my name's Lisa Levinson. I work with In Defense of Animals, and Vegan Spirituality Call is part of our sustainable activism campaign. It's a part of our effort to help activists to stay in the movement for the long haul. And we're doing that by offering these sorts of online events. We also have webinars that really focus on burnout, preventing burnout, and those are offered on our website. So what I'll do is I will send in the little message to everyone. I'll send a link of where to find out about our upcoming events, and many of them are online, so that it'll be easy for you guys to join them. Uh, so we also have retreats, and we do have a really special retreat coming up in Philadelphia, and it will be our sixth annual Vegan Spirituality Retreat, and that one is also available on that website that I'll type into the little chat box there. So my role as part of this call is to be somewhat the facilitator and also do the logistics. So if you have any difficulty hearing or any seeing online, please send a little note in the chat box and I will see it and I will try to fix it if I can. Okay, thank you to everyone who's sending feedback. This is a new platform for us, and you guys are our very first opportunity out in the public with this. We've done some practicing, but we appreciate your patience, and we will work on taking care of any little glitches as we go along. So, as part of Vegan Spirituality, we have groups that meet in person across the country, and if anybody's interested in starting one of those, you can do that by sending an email to veganspirituality@gmail.com, and we'll guide you in the process of how to put together your very own group that meets in person. So without any further ado, I think we'll move on with our program, and Judy is the next person. You won't see her. She is going to be on the phone, and she's here with us now. So Judy, would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy Carmen. I'm the author of Peace to All Beings, Veggie Soup for the Chicken Soul, and I've been interested in vegan spirituality for many years. I've also co-founded the Prayer Circle for Animals, which is, we have a Facebook and we have a website, and I send out a weekly prayer. If anyone is interested in signing up, you can do that at circleofcompassion.org. Now, tonight we are very honored because we have Lisa Kemmerer with us, and she's going to be speaking to us. She is a professor of philosophy and religion at Montana State University. She's a philosopher activist working on behalf of non-human animals, the environment, and disempowered human beings. She graduated from Reed, Harvard, and Glasgow universities. Lisa has written or edited 9 books, including Animals and World Religions. That's 1. 2 is Eating Earth, Dietary Choice and Environmental Health, and 3, Sister Species, Women, Animals, and Social Justice. And that's just 3 of them. You can learn more about Lisa's work at lisakemmerer.com, and her name is spelled Lisakemmerer. So we're truly honored and blessed to have such a powerful voice for animals. Lisa Kemmerer. our guest tonight on our Vegan Spirituality Conference call. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. Lisa, here's my first question for you. You stated in your World Religions book, religious communities have the power to bring animal industries to their knees. I just think that's a most amazing statement and so hopeful. But many vegan activists have left their faith traditions out of frustration because of the lack of reverence for life, for all beings, not just people. So, they have church barbecues and fishing and hunting retreats and overall silence about animal oppression. So do you see any progress, Lisa, among world religions to extend their compassion to animals?
Thank you, Judy. Yes, definitely. Of course I do. And I think I understand that sometimes we feel we're getting nowhere, and the churches can be very frustrating. But if you look at the books that have been published in the last decade or two, if you look at ministers and priests and some churches that are completely animal friendly, of course there's a lot of somewhat meaningless gestures like blessings of the animals, and in the Buddhist tradition they have a releasing of birds. So there are some traditions that are showing sensitivity but maybe a little wrong-headed. And then there's also a lot of things that are happening that are bringing change. And I think we really have to celebrate those things. Right now we have a pope who actually gets some of the stuff about environment. So there's tremendous hope in the Catholic Church. And I think, too, look at us. Look at us here, spirituality and animals, talking about it. This didn't exist. How long have you been going?
Well, we've been a spirituality group. We've been meeting since 2010. The first one in Philadelphia, but our actual online gathering is fairly new. We've been doing this probably for just a few months.
Yeah, isn't that great? So look at the power going on here. Look at people getting together because spirituality matters, and that's why I say religion can bring the industries to their knees. Is there's so much power. You're dealing with your ultimate existence. It's so much more important than our temporal existence, and when there's power behind that, it can really move and bring change. So, and the other thing I would say is it always pains me to know that people have left their churches. I want to say, get back to your churches. We have to be advocates for change. We have to be ones trying to change the institutions rather than running away from them because they are so powerful. And if we leave, then they just stay like they are. Then we've lost our power. We've lost our power to bring change. So, and I also understand that we have to protect ourselves, that it's hard being different. It's hard being not mainstream. But it is the minority that leads the majority. And we have to be visible and we have to be vocal to make that happen.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, what is it? The statement, well-behaved women seldom make history.
Yes.
Let us not
be troublemakers.
Yeah. And I also should ask that when you ask about religions in progress, I should not just speak about the West. India is an example of a nation that has very powerful laws protecting animals. And the reason for that is because their religion is so fundamental. The Hindu tradition is so fundamental to what India is. And you can look to them to find laws that can actually bring ancient traditions to its knees. I just saw a tradition go out of India because it was deemed cruel to animals, and it was the bullock races, water buffalo races that I saw going on in central India. I was there in the winter working with one of the animal groups. So I can see how important religion is and the power they can have when a preponderance of people bring that to happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There is so much power among the world's religions, and what the Pope is talking about now is pretty exciting. This possible St. Francis reincarnation. So in the vegan spirituality movement, we're finding that many people are really longing to bring their veganism and their spirituality together. So what advice do you have for us as we look for ways to do that, to bring our spirituality and our veganism together?
Well, the first thing I have to say is that realistically, I can't have any advice. It's so personal, and as much as you all have created this circle, you know what you're doing, and you've figured things out, and you're doing what you need to do for yourselves and for the animals in the earth, and that's really important. But if I were to say something about that, the main word I would say is integrity. That the most important thing for any of us is to integrate, and that's where integrity comes from, of course, is to integrate our actions, our words, so that our lives speak fully for what we believe in. And I think, again, that has to do with making changes and speaking up, that we can't just quietly believe what we believe because we are a minority and because there is so much pain and suffering in the world. We have to do what we can to try to bring change. And for me, that's been being an author and a teacher. We all just have to find our path where we can bring those values to the table. And I think, too, that we have to expand. This is one of the things in the movement that I'm constantly encouraging is that we expand. And it's hard. I get that we burn out, we're exhausted, we feel like we can't even make a change for a chicken. How are we going to make changes that are bigger? But we have to, because they're all connected. So I guess that would be the other thing I would suggest is, as part of having integrity, we have to speak for the poor. We have to speak for women who are abused, and we have to speak against prejudice. We have to speak up for the earth. We need to do things like using cloth shopping bags and doing without some things, not buying products, even if they're vegan, if they're causing suffering somewhere in the world. So that kind of integration is, I think, really important. And I guess the final thing I'd say is know yourself to be a person of change, that your life is a statement.
Yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly that we're being observed. People are watching us because the word vegan is popular and people know a little bit about what it means, and they kind of want to maybe see if we're going to cheat or if we're going to really be consistent. And what you're saying about caring about women's issues and all those other issues, the poor and the hungry, it's very important, because if we act like the only thing we care about is animals and don't see the big picture, then people wonder, well, what sort of a philosophy is this? And so, yeah, I think that's really important. So what about your spiritual journey? How has veganism intersected with that in your life, if you don't mind my asking?
I don't like complaints at all. I never have much to say about that. I think the main thing I'd say is that almost any other religion other than the Western Christian faith, there's no distinction. You don't talk about religion as distinct from the rest of your life. And I think for me that's just the case. If you were to ask a Hindu how their religion affects their life, they would just kind of look at you like, how could I have a life outside my religion? So, and I think that's the is that everything I do has to be a statement of what I believe and what I stand for. And it's hard, and I have to be forgiving. I have to know that I'm going to make mistakes, and it's not always going to be there, but I have to try. That's what life's about.
Yeah. So, do you follow a certain religion? I know you've studied all of them.
Yes, and I never answer that.
Pardon me?
It's a question I never answer, and there's a couple reasons for that. The main reason is that I teach religions, and so it's important to me that my students never know, because everything will come through a prism to them if they know where I stand. And I also just think that, again, the life's the statement, that the labels don't matter, that it's how you live, not whatever label you put on your life.
Right, yeah. There are a lot of people in the vegan movement who do have a specific religion that they adhere to. And I think that can sometimes make it hard for them to communicate with, say, someone who is a Buddhist but also an animal rights person. And I think that's something that vegan spirituality can address and help work on those kinds of issues for people, who come to us and wanting of vegan spirituality, but yet how do they talk? How did the Buddhist vegan talk to the Christian vegan? So
Yes, you have understood exactly. And to me, as someone who writes and works in this tradition, I need to stay open to all, and I really want to speak to all. And the way to do that is to not claim, not narrow my world, but open my heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So as you have studied world religions, what did you discover about the role of animals in them? Because you've written an entire book on animals and world religions, and so I imagine, or I'm wondering if you found a common thread among the world religions that talked about animals, or did you not, and or were they all different about how they dealt with animals?
By way of studying the East too much, I'll say yes and no. I'll say both, and that there's some wonderful commonalities. For example, all of them do teach to be compassionate and to be servants to the world. But then there's these wonderful differences too, these wonderful myths that are unique to each tradition. And their worldviews are different. And for me, the joy of studying religions is to have that wealth of human knowledge back through time and all around the world, all the things that people have tried to understand and put their highest ideals are put in their religions. And so when you study that, you're focusing on something intensely beautiful. And with regard to animals, something that I care so deeply about, that's just magnified. So if you want, I can give you some examples of some of the differences of roles in some of the different traditions.
I did not hear that, Lisa.
What
What did you say?
I can give you some examples of some of the different roles that animals play in the different religions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Yes, that would be great.
Okay. Well, if you look, I specialize probably scholastically in the religions that come out of India. And they're some of my favorites. So let's go there first and look at the Hindu tradition. So as most of us know, we have karma, reincarnation. So we have these particular views of life as cyclical, as going kind of around and continuing. So this really affects how they view the role of animals. And even the question, and I always love this when I'm working with my students, because the questions we frame are framed within our own religious tradition, our own belief system. So the role of animals, they wouldn't view it this way. For them, because of karma and reincarnation, it's all one. You're a dog, you're a cat, you're a chicken, you're a pig, you're a cow, you're a tiger. You're a human. And it just depends on your Atman, your soul, and the behaviors, that's your karma, your action. And so their relationship with animals is completely different than ours. Their relationship with animals is one of self. It's one of my mother and my brother and my best friend. So when they view their role with animals, it's like saying, what is your role with yourself? So it's a very different look at the relationship. So they're part of really in the Hindu tradition. And the other thing I would say with regard to the Indian tradition is more specifically looking at them as a role, they're divine. So you have many manifestations of the divine in human form or in other animal forms. So you have like Hanuman, for example, just a powerful animal that looks like an animal, acts like an animal, but is divine and has divine powers. So it's one of the things I love about the Hindu tradition is that you never know what you're dealing with. So if you walk out into the woods and you mistreat a monkey, you might find a god looking at you saying, what are you doing? And in some of their stories, that's exactly what happens. And the lesson is that you need to treat the things around you with respect. So that's an example of the role of animals, if you will. But you can see it's not quite a role, but the way animals are viewed and the way that people live with animals through their religious tradition. And the Buddhist tradition, of course, is strongly influenced by the Hindu tradition. So there are ideas of interbeing, that everything exists together and all things are one. There's a beautiful vision out of the Hindu tradition of the jewel net of Indra, and it's a net that stretches across the biosphere, if you will, and in every, it's like a fishing net. We don't like fishing nets because they kill things, but it's like a net, and it has all these crosses, and in each of the crosses there's a jewel hanging, and so the jewel is reflecting every other jewel, which is reflecting every other jewel. And so that's their vision of life, is that all things are interconnected, in that if you touch one jewel, it moves, and it moves all of the jewels, all reflecting with one another, that nothing is independent. So again, if you ask, what is the role of animals? Well, again, it's integrated. We're all part of that. Everything we do affects every other thing, and every other thing affects what we do. So it's a relationship of mutual interbeing, I guess would be perhaps the way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And one really interesting concept from the Buddhist tradition, in the Mahayana tradition, the idea of Buddha nature, where all the things that exist have in their essence that perfection. And this isn't just humans, this is everything. A cat has Buddha nature. A pig has Buddha nature. So they have this idea that that soul, that essence that humans are struggling so hard to get back to is in every living being. So that's a couple from the Eastern tradition. And I always like to touch on Islam because it's one of the religions that we tend to have a prejudice against. And Islam has absolutely fabulous teachings about animals. And so all the pain of the world right now as we deal with a few radicals within the world of Islam, knowing that this religion is absolutely beautiful. It is one, I would say it's the only religion that actually has animal rights as law. And I say that carefully because Judaism really does too, but the Islamic tradition just has a really strong set of animal rights as religious law. So this is one of their beauties. And of course, Muhammad, like every other religious leader, was a person of compassion who was kind to animals and who taught people to be kind to ants and cats and said you will go to heaven or hell based on how you treat a cat or a dog. These are some of the things that he's known to have said. And in the Quran it says specifically, there are communities like your own. The idea being that everything that's out there is living together, having a life, just like we are. So aren't those beautiful teachings? They're gorgeous. All right, you didn't respond, so I get to say one more thing. So Judaism, right now we have to get to our own traditions. We don't want to leave them out. So how is the role of animals in Judaism? This I love to tell people. If you look at scriptures, if you look at Genesis, there's this marvelous twist of fate that we seem to have missed knowing one of the most important parts of Scripture. Well, there's two. One is that God created a vegan world, but that's not surprising, right? This is a compassionate God. So God created a vegan world, but then God created the animals and woman as helpmates to the first being created that happens to be a man. So I always love this. So really what it is that we're all here to tend the earth. And in Genesis 2, it says that. It says, you're here to tend the earth. And now I make you here. Here's a woman. Here's all the animals. First God makes all the animals. And then Adam says, well, they're quite suitable. They aren't quite right for me. So then God makes women. But they're all made for the same purpose. And they're made to be helpmates. So the role of working together on this earth to protect and tend the earth, that's central to the story of creation in the Jewish tradition. And that, of course, is inherited by the Christian tradition. All of that is claimed by Christianity. Plus the idea of compassion and love and service to the lower, the downtrodden, the needy that Jesus emphasizes so strongly.
Mm-hmm. All right. So really what we're saying is there is a kind of a golden thread of compassion that kind of goes through all the religions. It's just expressed in different ways.
That's right. Different names for the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the love one another that Jesus teaches is one of the things I think we talk about as vegans is why can't that apply to all beings? And it sounds like in India, in the Hindu religion, it does, without question.
Mm-hmm.
But in the Christian tradition, there seems to be more of a question about the role of animals. Do you think the Pope is helping to change that?
That's a hard question. The church just recently apologized for the way the church treated Galileo Galilei. I mean, this is not a fast-moving institution. This is not, you can't expect that anything radical is going to happen anytime soon. But on the other hand, it is changing and it has to change. And I think with Pope Francis, he's caught on that the environment matters and he's willing to speak up for it. And I think that once you open that door, you have links to animals and caring about them because they're one and the same. We can't live without our earth. The animals can't live without the earth. And the earth isn't the earth without the animals and us. That's how it is. We are a community here. So I think Pope Francis is definitely helping. Now, he's of course, he's hitting lots of resistance. But, he's this world figure, and it's something that in some sense the Protestants don't have. They don't have that kind of one-voice power that the Catholics do. So I'm just looking to him. Just that name, how beautiful is that? Pope Francis. I was thrilled.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. And I also have to point out, when I talk about integrating and having integrity, notice that he has also made radical statements. He talks about the poor. He talks about gays and lesbians. He talks about truly living love, about a life where you're concerned about the suffering of others and how to share and help others who need your help.
Right. Yeah. He's pretty amazing.
Mm.
So far. been very amazing to watch him. I'm wondering, Lisa Levinson, is anyone raising their hands if other people might have questions for Lisa?
Okay, well, sure. We haven't invited anybody to do that yet, so if anyone would like to ask Lisa a question, I'm going to switch the settings so that we can have a Q&A.
All attendees are muted and may unmute themselves by pressing *6.
So that means that anyone who is on the phone can unmute yourself to ask a question by pressing *6, or you can unmute yourself online as well. I think it's under the raising hands section. So let's give that a try. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Great. And who is this? Say your name first.
This is Karen. And
Hi, Karen. Thanks,
Lisa.
Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Welcome. I have a question. I was wondering if the students you teach know that you're vegan and you're all around animal rights promotions, and how in Montana they take that.
You've asked a very interesting question. The answer is I keep my cards, what's it called? Keeping my cards close to my chest. I tell my students, I teach ethics, I teach religion courses, and there is not a group of students that goes through my classroom that does not look at videos of undercover footage. And they learn about the environment and what we're doing to the environment, they learn about animals, what we're doing to the earth. But I'm always very clear to them, because then they'll say, well, are you a vegan? And I'll say, it doesn't matter what I'm eating. The question is, what are you going to eat for lunch? So I'm always very clear that my teaching isn't about me. It's about their choices, and that they have to look at the evidence, that the things that they're learning, the information that they're gathering, and they have to choose for themselves. And it really doesn't make any difference. I'll sometimes give them an example. I'll say, well, if I was telling you that you shouldn't go around you shouldn't be an axe murderer, would you ask me if I'd killed anyone lately? Right? It doesn't matter. The point is, do you want to be an axe murderer? So it's the same sort of a situation, that it really doesn't matter what I'm doing. So the answer is no, I don't generally tell people about my personal life, because I know it doesn't matter. What they need to know is the information, and my job is to get that to them. Here in Montana, I have a huge file at the university. I had a tremendous amount of complaints, but also a lot of positives. Some very high and very powerful people don't like me, and they don't like what I'm doing, but they can't touch me. And even before I was tenured, my university protected me, because I guess they saw me as valuable to their university. So as it stands, I haven't been fired yet, so this is all very good. And now I'm tenured, so it would be really hard for them to get rid of me. So yeah, that's how it works so far.
Thank you.
Great.
It's not the way I've handled things, but I can see that you have to handle things the way you think. Let me comment that I've had many teachers I've looked up to and followed their ethics. So I think it's important to let folks know who you are when you can.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Lisa.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So does anyone else have a question? Oh, okay. Looks like Susan has a question. So, Susan, I'm going to unmute you myself, and that way you can, let's see, there's two Susans on the call. So let me just quickly see if I can. So Susan, I'm going to unmute you. To do that, I'm switching you to a presenter, and that way I think you'll be able to speak. Susan, can you ask your question? Let's see, Susan. Yes. Hold on one second. Click to unmute. Okay, I think you should be able to speak. Can we hear you, Susan?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I would be really curious if you have any thoughts on all these new age teachers who promote spirituality, higher consciousness, unconditional love, and but that stop short of mentioning violence towards animals.
Specifically, I hear your question. I hear it deep inside. And my main thought is we could say this of any religious tradition, not just the New Age people. To some extent, you expect.
Oops, Lisa? I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, I lost her also.
Okay, one second. Let me just get her back. Let's see. Hold on a second. Let's see. Hold on.
That's a
Lisa,
really
we can't.
interesting question.
It is. It's a great question, Susan. So hold on one second. Oh, there she is. Let's see what happened here. Looks like she should be able to speak. Oops. Ooh. Oh, I think she's coming back on. Can you speak,
Are
Lisa?
you there, Lisa? I wonder if she dropped the call or something.
No, she's here. She's with us. So let's
Okay.
see. So I think she's going to need to get on the telephone is what's happening. So hold on one moment. Hold on one second.
Well, can I talk, Lisa, while you're doing that?
Sure, please do.
Okay, I just had talked to someone just yesterday about meeting someone who claimed to be a shaman and into the New Age and all that. And my friend who is vegan said, well, if you're a shaman and you're being led by your guides and your spirit guides, are they telling you to be vegan? And she said, well, no. And my friend said, well, then I don't know how I could go along with your shamanic rituals and so forth, because to me, if you're going to be completely ethical and kind and compassionate, then you yourself would be vegan. And I thought that was very great of her to do that and brave. But it's so true. I have listened to a lot of people who are part of the New Age movement, if you will, and tend not to think about animals and or being vegan. So, and yet I've also heard about and read about various psychic people who have found that their psychic abilities improve once they become vegan. So, but there's a lot of New Age fairs and gatherings and that sort of thing where animals are not considered, their rights are not considered. So I think that's a really important question. So I'm Judy, by the way. Forgot to say who was speaking. Have we got Lisa back yet?
I don't think so. Just trying to get her some info. I'm not sure she's receiving the little messages that I'm sending her.
Okay. Well, do we
here.
have any other questions?
I have a comment, if I might.
Yeah,
sure.
This is Karen again.
Oh, Karen.
What's always taken me back and blown me away throughout the decades, including to this time, are there so many people who are for peace and anti-war and against violence and against assault, yet they don't put it together that you don't do this to animals.
Right. Well, and so many great thinkers have said we will not end human wars until we stop killing animals. Einstein said that, and many other great thinkers. And in fact, I have a whole list of quotes that I send to my peace activist friends occasionally about that, because everything is linked together, like Lisa was saying, in this divine net. And if we, are waging war against people, that is partly a result of the fact that we're waging war against animals constantly, and have been for at least the last 10,000 years of animal agriculture, and then, of course, before that. So, yeah.
Absolutely. It's always blown me away that Joan Baez and Holly Near are okay with eating meat.
I know. And here they are. Great peace activists.
I think I've got you all. Are you guys still there?
Yes, fabulous.
You're back.
That's perfect. We can hear you. Thank you so much.
And I missed that very last comment, but I caught all the others before. And I think I want to highlight something here, and that's that we're picking on the New Age folks because they're New Age, and we expect them to somehow be more progressive, and we mustn't do it. We really mustn't do it. Everyone is where they're at, and I think that it's so important that we not have expectations that just because somebody is Christian or Jewish or Islamic or New Age, that they're going to understand anything that we understand, that everybody comes to life and goes through life and has their own experiences, and our spirituality is so unique to us that our task is not to be disappointed, but to be there to speak up, to say something, to express ourselves, and to do it in a way that is kind and that opens doors. I think it is extremely important that we not have any prejudice or any expectations, but instead just be ambassadors for the earth and the animals and the poor and anyone who is downtrodden. I think that's our task.
That's beautifully said, Lisa. Thanks. Do we have anybody else raising their hands? Or Karen, did you have anything else?
Oh.
I wasn't talking, I think you missed, Lisa, what I was saying, which wasn't about New Age or alternative spirituality people. I was talking about, the comment you missed was I was talking about people through the decades who have been for peace, anti-war activism, anti-violence, anti-assault, and who haven't put it together or stood up for animals. And I gave two examples, both of which I have talked to in person with that Joan Baez and Holly Near are not vegetarians.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's perplexing, it's frustrating, it's sad, it's hurtful to the animals and the earth, and I completely hear you. But I think that it's not fair to expect of anyone that they be something they're not. All of us are walking a path where we come from not knowing to knowing or not. And I see my path, and I know I didn't choose it. I know I didn't. It wasn't my own volition. It wasn't my own making. It wasn't my intelligence, my strength, my foresight. None of that brought me to where I am. It was chance encounters. It was things that I bumped into. It was people that I met. And it was also just a set of characteristics that I was born with, that certain tendencies. And I don't ever want to hold against anyone their path or who they are. And I also want to remember that along that path, I must have been really irritating to a lot of people at a lot of times, and probably still am, because I'm not there yet, and I know it. There's stuff I don't get. I'm still a privileged white person from a wealthy country who is missing so much that I need to understand and be acting on, and that I'm not, because I'm focused so strongly on earth and animals. So that must be very frustrating for some people who see the need, the people that are dying, every second someone's dying from hunger. And here I am not giving away most of what I own to help them. So pointing the finger is never helpful, I just think, or even being frustrated. And I remember, too, when I first came to Billings, Montana, I joined the peace activists, and they didn't get anything that mattered most to me, and I walked away from them. And I wouldn't do that now. I think that you have to stay there and be an ambassador and be patient and know that it was me 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 5 years ago or 2 or whatever it is for that particular issue. Or looking ahead, that's going to change later when someone else opens the door for me.
Well, and it's similar to what you were saying, Lisa, about churches. If we leave the church that we were a member of, perhaps, when we became vegan, then we lose the chance to be ambassadors.
Yes.
Not that we have to stay or anything, but it's a similar thing to also being ambassadors to peace activists and other kinds of activists. And I always like to, honor them because they're so passionate. They're willing to be activists, and that means you're giving up a lot. And but it nevertheless, we do have to remember that we do have a message, I think, to give them, to show them the connection. And if we can, especially if we can show them that we also are interested in world peace and all the other issues, like you said, then it opens their hearts a little bit and goes, well, maybe they have something to say.
One thing that you have reminded me of. It's absolutely true. Not only do they have something to say, but when we recognize that the peace activists don't get the animal thing, or the new agey people don't get the animal thing, what we're forgetting is how much they do get. And to somehow be more irritated at them because they don't get the animal thing than at the ranchers here who don't really get any of it, it's wrong-headed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I disagree, but thanks for your comment. And thank you, Judy. That's what I was talking about, is I don't understand why they don't connect the whole connectivity of the life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. Karen, your name's Karen, right?
Is it? Yes, you're Lisa?
Yes. So
is
Karen,
this Lisa?
So
okay.
Karen, along the way somewhere, I presume you became a vegan.
Correct.
Okay. So at some point, something touched you that changed you, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so these other people who you may be feeling a frustration with are no different than you were before someone touched you and changed you. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't your shortcoming. You just had not met the right set of circumstances yet to get where you are.
You may have not heard me. I do radio segments, Lisa, and some of these other folks know that I do this. That happened to me as a young teenager many decades ago. And I was frustrated then even in the 60s during the peace movement and radical politics, that people didn't get it. Why weren't you all vegetarian? Why didn't you get it then? So I'm speaking as technically a senior citizen now, and it is frustrating. I believe what Judy said. It's very important to be an ambassador with whoever you are. I do hold in high esteem certain political and public speakers like Holly Near, who have stood up for a lot of issues, and I've talked to her more than once. Why aren't you vegetarian if you're against violence? To me, it's that simple. You don't need to say it in an aggressive way, but you know what? Have you ever seen the connection between being for peace and being anti-violence and eating animals and abusing animals?
Aaron, let me be very clear. Let me be very clear. I would never suggest that you shouldn't speak up.
Right.
Maybe you weren't here at the beginning of the call. I don't know.
Oh, I was.
Okay, yes, that was one of the things I said. Do not leave your churches. Stay there, be an ambassador, speak up.
I think that's great. Absolutely, that's great, because it's so important. You may be the only one in your congregation who says, no, it's not okay to have a barbecue. No, it's not okay to have milk for the kids. Have some soy milk.
Yes,
absolutely, I agree.
I think what you're missing that I'm saying is that it's what's in your heart when you say it. So being irritated at them, I think, is not helpful. Whereas I think,
yes,
speaking your mind is important.
I didn't mean to say I was irritated with them. I was just aghast over the years that people like that who tried so hard for different humane issues and totally X'd out whatever has to do with animals. That's why I was saying that I don't get, they don't see the whole circle of compassion, as Judy says.
I agree with you, and I'll bet you there's no one on this phone call who would disagree with you, but I just want to add to that I'm guessing there is also something that I and you and everyone else on this phone is missing that is just as important to someone else, and that's that humility and that humbleness that I think helps us to be understanding of those who aren't there yet, the pre-vegans.
It's very difficult after so many years of being an animal activist and advocate to still feel that. You're very right on that. And this is what to me is so important about this vegan spirituality conferencing. It helps me get in touch with that. So thank you for your comments, Lisa.
Thank you for yours.
Yeah, I think humility is an extremely important thing that we have to focus on in our activism, and not get angry at people. But remember that very important concept that we were once there.
We have to nurture ourselves, too, because it is easy to be angry and frustrated when people do things that hurt and kill other animals, and that's an understandable feeling, and it builds up over time, and we have to really work with ourselves and protect ourselves and be kind to ourselves and talk to ourselves about the bigger picture, I think, to stay healthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that piece. This is Lisa Levinson chiming in on that, because it is natural to feel frustrated with a lot of the questions that were brought up this evening. There's a natural frustration when we see the beauty and the divinity in compassion for all living beings, and it's challenging for us when other people don't resonate with that. So I think bringing in that humility, but also bringing in a sense of empathy for ourselves, for our own desire for this vegantopia to be manifested. It's just sometimes to actually do our own work on ourselves and be kind to ourselves, knowing that, everyone's not in that place yet, and we may not all hear each other exactly, but to stay with your own truth and speaking your own truth and then having some compassion, because ultimately our goal is to have communication with these other folks so that they can just, maybe widen their circle of compassion too.
Right.
Yes, very
Well, and
Thank you.
Nice.
one of the main things about our vegan spirituality that we've gotten started here is to have a place, a community where vegans can get assurance from each other and comfort from each other, because we do endure a lot of frustration and a lot of anger and just wanting it to get done and wanting everyone to understand what we see and how everything's connected. And so to have our community gathering closer with these conference calls and Lisa's vegan spirituality gatherings, in-person gatherings, I just think so important to help all of us to stay strong.
Yes, and I'll add one other piece to that, which is that we, in Defense of Animals, recently launched the Animal Activist Helpline, and we have people kind of waiting on the other end of the call who are activists, but also therapists who are trained in nonviolent communication. And the goal is really to offer people emotional and spiritual support. So I'm going to send you guys a little link to that. If you ever want to call that, I'll say the location for the information is at idausa.org/helpline, and I'll put that in the comments here so people can see it. But the idea of that is we have our community where we can speak with one another, and then if you're having a struggle on a day and want some support, or are even having trouble communicating with other activists on some days, that's a great resource for all of us.
Wonderful.
Right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, Lisa?
I had one.
Who is that? If you had a question, please share your name.
Susan. And
Susan, great.
Okay. So I'm still trying to make sense of all this. I'm a fairly new vegan, over a year, still trying to make sense of this. And I'm very so I'm kind of struggling with the idea of how out of touch people are with violence and how we are so insulated in our culture from it. And again, no blaming or anything, but it just feels like even on a metaphysical level or an energy level, I don't know how to hold. For me, it feels like it's so urgent that it should matter to people, and obviously it doesn't yet. But I'm just struggling with how to hold that shadow or the metaphysical way of that unconsciousness to one's own violence. Like we're accessories to, and yet we're so unconscious. And I was there until I wasn't. So I don't know how to hold that. And it's even a question, but it's just what I think about.
Can you repeat the last couple sentences, please? I had a little trouble understanding you.
Okay, so to me, people, as I was, have been unconscious about our culpability in violence. We are accessories to murder, but we are also so removed from the violent act. And that gap in consciousness, how can I say why it should matter to somebody?
How can you say why what matters to somebody?
Like how can I talk to somebody like why that should matter to them, that they are unconscious about?
The unconsciousness of our violence, you mean?
Yes.
Right.
Boy, how to talk about somebody. So the question, as I understand it, is, yes, we live in a culture where we are extremely violent, and we are not aware of it. And the question is, might there be some ways that are maybe that I've found that are good to talk about this or to help bring this awareness?
Why should someone care? Why
should about the violence?
Yeah, about their own violence.
Oh, Okay, here is where spirituality is key, and this is why it is one of the things that I focus on. And I am very sorry to tell you that if they don't care about ethics and they don't care about spirituality, you're out of luck. And this is the beauty of religions, and this is why I say religions can bring the slaughterhouses to their knees. When people care, they act. But when they don't care, you can't do anything. So the beauty of religion is ethics is extremely important. But religions, it's your eternal soul, it's your eternal life. Nothing matters more than that. Nothing. And recalling people to that is everything if you want to bring change. But if you have someone who is outside that circle, I don't know how you reach them, because they can say I don't care, and they really don't care. And it's not to say everybody. I'm not to say that you can have. You don't have to have any ethics that I understand or any religion that I understand, and it doesn't mean you aren't still going to be an empathic good person. But the channels through which you can walk with people by the hand, those are the ones that are the strongest, is religion and ethics. So if they're outside that, it's difficult. Now, if they're inside it, then that's all you have to do. And this is why I wrote the book, Animals and World Religions, because I think as activists we need to understand the fundamental teaching so that we can recall people to what matters to them. If you tell me you're X, you tell me you're a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim, I can say to you, this is why this violence needs to matter to you. So this is the beauty of religion. It solves that very question. It answers that very question to you. It solves that problem. It's a bridge. It's a way of walking over to other people. It's a connection. If you understand the core teachings on which they've based their life, then it's easy. You just say, here's what your religion say about violence. Here's what we're doing. What do you say? Are you really an X or a Y, or you're a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Jew, or whatever it is they are. So my suggestion is know the person you're talking to. You have to know enough about them to know if they do stand within a religious tradition. And then you have just a wealth of things you can say and do if you understand the tradition that they belong to.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope it helps.
Okay, very much.
I like your quote, Lisa, that you shared about religion bringing the slaughterhouses to their knees in a way. Just, it's a devotional position, but it's also reminding us that these morals and ethics are really important, and many people base their lives around them. And being able to bring in the concept of compassion for all sentient beings, it is a valid reason to bring that up in discussion.
Yeah, and remember,
I think,
go ahead.
I was going to say Marcia has a comment, so I'm going to see if I can get to her here and unmute her.
While she's doing that, let me just say that the religions are not just animal-friendly. They are liberationist. They are radically animal-friendly if you look closely. So do not despair. There is, if you want to call it ammunition, go right ahead. There is just a wealth of wonderful things that you can use to help people rethink how they view the world. And it's not a light touch. If they really look at what their religion teaches, it would change. It would save the earth and the animals. And our job is to help them know that.
Thank you,
that's
Lisa.
our job.
That is our job. But we have to be educated to do that, right? We have to know what the traditions teach. That's our job too.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that is also important. So I'm going to say to Marcia, who is requesting to speak, for some reason it says that your microphone isn't working. So let's see. If you would like to type your comment, I can go ahead and ask it to Lisa. Okay. Let's see. We might not have great access to Marcia at the moment.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and invite anyone else who has, actually we're very close to the end of our call. So if anyone else has either a comment or something they'd like to say before we close our call, I wanted to mention you can either, for some of you, you can type *6 on your phone, or you can type a message in the chat box and I will see it. If you want me to share it, if for some reason, or I can unmute you, either one of those.
Know too that you can find my email at my website. So I'm fairly accessible. I'm at the computer a lot and I work a lot, but I usually, if the answers aren't too developed and long, I can usually fire them back pretty quickly. So please don't hesitate to ask me anything you want to ask me or share things with me.
Lisa, can you say why don't you tell us your website again? And then I'll type it into.
Yeah,
well,
just my
there
name,
you go. Wonderful. I've got that .com. I just am sending it to everyone here, lisakemmerer.com. Okay, very good. So they can reach you that way. That's another good way to connect.
Facebook, and Facebook page, I have my email.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
That's great.
Wonderful.
So we want to take a moment and thank Lisa for being part of our conversation tonight. I think she's got a wealth of information with all of the books that she's written and her position teaching others about world religions. It's so helpful to have a sense of that from you directly. And I have a comment from Marcia. This will be our last comment, and then I think Judy is going to share a prayer with us. So Marcia says, she has a comment on intersectionality. The many great social justice, hold on one moment. Okay. There we go. There are many great social justice causes, but since there are so many organizations devoted to human rights, I think we can be justified in concentrating on animal issues. Sometimes I see comments that make it sound as if we are misanthropic if we focus on animals alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so glad you bring that up. Absolutely. I have so many thoughts on that, and I have very strong thoughts on that. The animals and the earth are not second to humanity, and the religions are clear on that. We are servants. We are servants to the earth, and we are servants to the downtrodden and the helpless, and there is no question that it is our responsibility, not just to help downtrodden humans, but also other animals. So the first thing is that somehow that hierarchy, that sense of human arrogance, which is just not part of any religion. I mean, we're these humble creations, and we're just these beings on the earth, and there's no religion that elevates us. That's our own arrogance. We've come up with that outside of religion. And the other thing I'll say is you don't need to justify yourself. If you're being an activist, everyone should cheer you on. And the people who complain about the fact that you're being activists for animals, they're usually not being activists for anyone or anything. Everyone and all of us are needed for all the suffering of this earth. And whatever you choose, you should have everyone's blessings for the good work that you're doing.
Hear, hear. Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts. I think that's really validating for all of us, and encouraging us to continue in our advocacy efforts and know that we are helping in our own unique way with our own unique talents.
Yes, and thank you all for that. And thank you for getting together and supporting yourselves so you can continue to do your good work. It's a marvelous thing. Good for you.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for being with us. This has just been wonderful.
I have enjoyed it so much. Thank you. Special thank you to Lisa and Judy that made this all happen and helped figure out the technology and figured out what you were going to ask me. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's all the work that we do, and it's important that we work together. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
Wow. So Judy, will you share your prayer with us?
I will. I certainly will. If everyone would just take a deep breath and let that breath out and maybe close your eyes if you want to. We acknowledge the appearance of violence toward the animals of the world, and we let go of the misconception that this violence must continue. We know with our hearts and souls that violence has no power when faced with the unlimited power of love. We understand that we have the magnetic power to create, and we choose to do our part to create a compassionate world. We know that this universe is filled with limitless divine abundance and infinite compassion, not just for a few, but for all beings. We open our minds and hearts to the vast creative resources of the universe and listen for divine ideas for the animals. We give our love and joy along with many others and see the animals living healed, joyful, and free. And so it is.
Oh, wow. Judy, thank you so much. That was such a beautiful poem and prayer, focus thought. It's a beautiful way to, in a way, connect to all of the things that we shared today, some of the comments. I would just request, if you don't mind, if you could send me that. I'll send a replay out to folks who are on the call and the folks who didn't make it on the call. And if you can share your prayer with us, I'll go ahead and include that along with the replay and with some of the messages that I typed in the chat box. If you're on the phone and can't see them, I'm gonna send all of that to you in an email. So thank you all for participating this evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lisa. You make it happen, and I sure appreciate it.
I appreciate you both. Thank you so much. Let's keep working together.
Yes, absolutely.
Take care.
All right.
Thank you again.
Sounds like a plan. So thanks to everyone. Again, have a wonderful evening, and we will look very forward to our next call, and we'll send details about that day, time, and if we have a guest speaker, we'll let you know.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Sounds good. Bye-bye, everybody.
Oh, hold on just a moment. Let's see if I can do, we've had a little tradition of unmuting everybody, but this is a little different here. So if you'd like to, hold on 1 second, if I can unmute.
I'd love to hear everybody.
Yeah, I think you can all unmute yourselves if you'd like, because it's on Q&A mode. So go ahead, unmute yourself, and we'll all say a good evening together.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Blessings.
Good night. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Good night.